Good afternoon, and welcome back, everyone. We wish we weren't necessarily sitting in this room with you again so soon, but we appreciate you joining us on such short notice. We are here today out of an abundance of caution to make sure that our community has the same information we do, especially as it comes to our ongoing work to navigate this disaster of Glacial Lake outburst floods in our community. Today we have a short briefing. We'll start with information from Nicole Farron at the National Weather Service to talk about the flood warning, how we got here, and what we can expect moving forward. Next we'll have Ryan O'Shaughnessy and Sabrina Grubitz from CBJ and Tlingit and Haida respectively, and then Denise Koch, Engineering and Public Works Director, to talk a bit about CBJ's preparedness efforts in response as it specifically relates to this event. So to get us started, Nicole Farron, would you mind joining us? And for those on the Zoom, a little housekeeping. We will go ahead and hear from Nicole, and then we'll move to questions. Please put your questions in the chat, and we'll make sure to get to them. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Nicole Farron, National Weather Service. I'm the warning coordination meteorologist for our office. We've been watching the basin ever since the previous flood, watching it refill, and so we had been preparing for it to potentially release again this fall. Yesterday and through this morning, we were paying attention to the rate of rise on the lake level and determined that it was not going up because of the heavy rain that we had in the area. None of the other glacially fed rivers like the Taku and others in our region were rising at that rate. So gave us more confidence that a release was happening from the basin. Subsequently this morning, the laser gauge data from the basin also helped to confirm that information. As of right now, we're looking at a crest sometime tomorrow morning. I will say that our science team is looking really closely at how much water is left in the basin based on the laser data. And so we're going to likely do an update to the crest height and timing a little bit here coming this afternoon. So pay attention to updates even through the night tonight. Our forecasters are going to be monitoring this really closely and putting the latest information on our basin monitoring page. That's weather.gov/Juneau/suicide basin. We'll have the latest information there, and we'll also be using YouTube lives to broadcast that information periodically as well. So I'm happy to take any questions. As of right now, we're looking at a crest again sometime Tuesday morning between 11 and 12 feet as of right now.
KTOO, can you explain why we're seeing these, as this happened last October as well, these smaller releases happening in the fall, and I guess can you explain the science behind that and why it's occurring?
Some of the theories from glaciologists would be that the conduit that had opened up last month is still there somewhere, and so it's weaker and it doesn't take as much pressure on the glacier for it to find that opening again. That's only theoretical, though.
To the chat now. Nicole, what was the latest available basin water level?
The basin water level is dropping like a rock, and so if I tell you a number right now, it'll change in the next few minutes, but I do have that page open. The USGS page for the basin is the one that's updating the most currently, and I see it is right now 1,108 feet and falling.
And then I do have another question. What was the basin level at the time of the release? And is there an estimation of water in the basin at the time?
Yeah, our hydro team at the River Forecast Center is actually working on that part right now. The estimated volume, however, is fluid because of the icebergs floating in it, and that's so dynamic, it's constantly changing. So I don't have that number for you today.
I got another one. Is it accurate to say that you're expecting something similar to what has occurred with late season secondary releases before?
Yeah, it is pretty similar to what we got to last year. I think last year in October, we got up to 10.7 feet on the lake when it released. One of the differences, right now is we've got heavy rain coming in tonight, and so the base flow of Mendenhall Lake and River was already going to be a little bit elevated because of that, and so we're seeing, like I said, our current forecast was somewhere between 11 and 12 feet for a crest height, but we've got fall storms coming through, and so that's going to contribute to the base flow of everything. And it's a very active week of weather. We have flood advisories down in Ketchikan right now. We have potential for high wind through midweek. Even with the potential threat of our warning in Juneau, we are also focusing on all of Southeast Alaska.
I got another one. How do you expect the tide to affect things, if at all?
Well, it was really interesting with last month's flood. The new gauges that the USGS installed downstream didn't show any tidal influence from what we could see. So I would say at this point it's not a major factor.
I got another one.
Yeah.
How should residents prepare for the flooding? Are areas being evacuated?
That would be a question for the next group. I hold that to them coming up.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue to move on to our next speakers. Thank you, Nicole. And if there are other questions for Nicole that come in the chat, we can address them at the end of the briefing. Thank you to one of our members of the chat that acknowledged that I did not introduce myself. My name is Ashley Heimwigner. I'm the Communications and Engagement Director for the City and Borough of Juneau. Now I will introduce Sabrina Grubitz, Public Safety Manager with Tlingit and Haida, and Ryan O'Shaughnessy, Emergency Programs Manager with the City and Borough of Juneau.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As mentioned, my name is Sabrina Grubitz, Tlingit and Haida Public Safety Manager. As mentioned, Tlingit and Haida and the city are continuing to monitor the situation and keep a close eye on it. This is a joint effort in monitoring. While doing that, also some steps are being taken to prepare if the situation were to escalate so that we are fully prepared to respond to this disaster itself. This morning, after we received information and updates from the Weather Service, Tlingit and Haida did release notification to our citizens through our Everbridge communication system here in Juneau, providing updates. Those updates are really just recirculating the information we're receiving from the National Weather Service at this time. So please, I encourage the community and our citizens to continue to monitor for those updates as we're able to get those out. That being said, I will kick it over to Ryan. Thank you.
Thanks, Sabrina. Ryan O'Shaughnessy, CBJ Emergency Programs Manager. I wanted to just take a moment and let the community know what our objectives are during this flood response. So like has been mentioned, this morning we were made aware that Suicide Basin is releasing, and we expect the crest of that flood to reach a lake stage of between 11 and 12 feet tomorrow morning. In an abundance of caution, we are recommending that folks in the View Drive area evacuate their homes this evening or just spend the night somewhere else. Again, these floods are dynamic. They take a lot of material and change the shape of the river and lake at each event. And our number one priority is always going to be the protection of life and public safety. We really encourage people to not take any chances. And folks in that area, please consider spending the night somewhere else. We also really want to encourage folks in that same vein of protecting life and safety. Please stay away from the bridges and the HESCO barriers during this event. This is going to be a much lower flow event than we saw in August, but we can't underscore enough how much water is moving through the river at peak flow during these events. It's very, very dangerous. It's difficult. It will be difficult for our first responders to rescue folks should there become a situation where somebody went into the river or otherwise. So please stay away from the barriers. Please stay away from the bridges during this release. We are also taking we're taking measures of caution to bolster and repair the HESCO barriers and some related infrastructure. I'll let our operations section chief and Engineering and Public Works Director Denise Koch speak to that. But please stay tuned to our Alert Sense opt-in emergency alerts, social media, and the CBJ newsroom for updates for this event. Questions? Clarice?
In terms of View Drive being asked to, or being recommended to evacuate, are you offering any like options for them to evacuate, or just like in terms of like a shelter of some sort?
So at this time, we are in touch with the Red Cross. We're not activating a Red Cross emergency shelter. If we're made aware of, we can make those calls on congregate or non-congregate emergency housing options if we're made aware of any need. So we again encourage people to stay in touch, sign up for emergency alerts, and please reach out to us at flood response email. And I believe on our press release we do have a flood hotline phone number for folks to call if they need those resources as well.
Just to follow up, I know that you are advising View Drive to there could be flooding, but what about places like Meander Way or such that could they see flooding in their backyard? Is there any mention you can bring on that?
So we are incorporating lessons learned from seepage and things that we saw in August's event, and I'm going to let our Engineering and Public Works Director and Operations Section Chief speak more specifically to how we're incorporating those lessons, specifically in places like North Meander and a couple other spots.
I have a question for Ryan. Ryan, why did you not use the wireless emergency alert system this time around?
We made the call to stick with our opt-in Alert Sense proprietary messaging versus the wireless emergency alert iPause system because of the decreased risk for catastrophic flooding. We use the iPause risk to signify a flood of historic record and the potential for widespread catastrophic damage, whereas in this event, we are really responding out of an abundance of caution, making sure that folks on View Drive are aware, but we do not believe that there is the same risk to life and safety.
I do have another question, but it's pertaining to ESCO barriers, so I'll wait until
Okay, that's great.
Denise up there, okay?
Thank you. And again, if we get more questions for Ryan and Sabrina, we can save them, come back to them at the end. So Ryan and Sabrina talked a little bit about how they're conducting their emergency outreach, and I'm going to invite Denise Koch, Director of Engineering and Public Works, to come up and share a little bit about the proactive preparedness efforts that they are taking. And it looks like she'd be, yeah. I'll go ahead and hold this for you while you're talking.
Thank you.
Okay. Denise.
All right, thank you, everybody. So I want to talk about what we're doing proactively on HESCO barriers and what's changed since about a month ago. So first of all, I want to mention that we are confident that the HESCO barriers overall will perform in a GLOF of this magnitude, similarly to how they were overall pretty successful in the August event. However, we know that there were areas where the HESCO barriers were damaged, and there were areas where there was seepage. We have showed this flood barrier assessment map in the past, and I thought it's a good visual, and we can make it available later because we've handwritten some things on it this morning. But an area that we were particularly concerned about was North Meander, and North Meander is an area where there was excessive seepage through the HESCO barriers in the August event. So we had already planned to do essentially rebuild a section of the HESCO barriers in North Meander using Coogan Construction. They were the one of the construction companies who assisted us with installation of the HESCO barriers earlier this year, but they actually installed that section of HESCO barriers. So we had prearranged for them to rebuild that section starting this week. And then when we found out that a GLOF had, a release had begun, we have switched gears to do more immediate work versus a rebuild, just because we won't have time for that in this 24-hour period. But the first thing that they're doing is, the other thing is we are not just using Coogan employees. We're also deploying CBJ staff just to expedite some of that work. The first thing that they're doing is they're refilling the HESCO barriers with additional sand and compacting those HESCO barriers. Once they're done with that, then they'll start filling sandbags, and they'll place sandbags along the base of the HESCO barriers, so that very first level between the first level of the HESCO barriers and the native soil is where they'll be reinforcing with sandbags. I do also want to mention that we are pre-positioning pumps to North Meander as well, but that's a combination of both CBJ and Tlingit and Haida resources. We've got an 8-inch pump, we've got a 6-inch pump, we have a number of 3-inch pumps that we will pre-position in that location. We're also, similar to what we did before the August 2025 GLOF, there is a section of HESCO barriers that is downriver of Brotherhood Bridge that is designed to be closable in an event, and then when we're not in an event, we open it really easily. So we're also, out of an abundance of caution, just going to close that section of the HESCO barriers as well. We're closing the CAX trail and making sure that we keep people clear of that area, very similar to what our incident commanders were just saying. We want to keep people safe, and keeping people safe is the number one priority. We are asking people to not go and rush to Meander. We have a lot of work that's going to happen there today. We would ask for people to only go to that street if really they're local traffic. We're going to post a sign there as well for requesting local traffic only. And we have also pre-positioned road closure signs that will deploy if we need to close roads.
And Denise, just to confirm, I think one of the themes of this briefing today is abundance of caution. And that HESCO work is not because we expect the water levels to reach the HESCOs necessarily, but would you mind speaking to that a little bit?
Sure. In North Meander, each event has been different. But in the past, some of the homes in North Meander have seen some water on their properties, not in their homes. But when you're in the 11 to 12 foot, lake stage, and of course, we've been referring to lake stage, but also the rate of the release is really important as well. So we really just want to make sure that we are augmenting those HESCO barriers of that North Meander section that we feel are the most vulnerable. And if you don't mind standing a little bit closer to me, just so I can have the mic and then also point. So once again, we'll make this map available. We've shown this in the past. What's different is you can see we have one of the circles that we had here. We've got Coogan's crew doing repairs in this area. So once again, this is an area that we had identified when we created this map on August 15th. And then we also have these two areas where we have these two dots in North Meander where we are pre-staging pumps.
Any questions?
I recognize Superintendent Frankhauser is not here right now, but is there any news on if there's going to be impacts to schools nearby or anything like that?
Do you want to take that one?
At this time, we are not closing the CBJ facilities in Diamond Park, and I do not believe that the school district is going to be closing that school. According to the best data available, which we are still utilizing, the Michael Baker International Inundation Maps, we do not anticipate seeing inundation in the Diamond Park area at the 12-foot flood stage.
Can you speak to the Mendenhall River School as well?
Yes, we also don't believe that we'll see any flooding or inundation on Mint Way or around Mendenhall Community River School.
And then just to clarify for Denise, is it fair to say that Meander Way may see like seepage in their backyard? Is that something that you mentioned they've seen in the past at that level?
So prior to the HESCO barriers being installed, we had reports from some properties on Meander that when there were events, when you had the lake stage at about 11 to 12 feet, some people had reported to us that they saw water on their property, so on their land, not in their houses. So with a release that could be in the 11 to 12 foot range, that's why we really are reinforcing those HESCO barriers in that North Meander area, both with compacting and putting more material in them, but also trying to augment them with sandbags at the base of that first level to try and prevent that seepage. And eventually that section will just be rebuilt. That was the plan for this week, but we just had to shift gears to the more immediate action.
I have a question about ballot measures, but I think that could be more towards the end, if need be, or
Sure. Okay. Yeah, cool.
Sort of based on what she was just saying about people asking about water in their homes and things like that. One thing to consider with heavy rain tonight, their yards are going to be wet anyway. So, ponding of water on roadways anywhere in Juneau can be expected tonight. So don't just assume that it's because of the river flooding. We do have a lot of heavy rain coming in this week. And also, we often see trees falling into the river, even at these levels. And so mariners can expect additional debris out in Lynn Canal through the week with stuff flowing down the river.
Thank you, Nicole. We don't have a safety officer with us today, but I do want to echo the same messages that we shared throughout the previous GLOF event, and that is please stay away from the HESCO barriers. Please stay away from the areas that are potentially going to be impacted by flood inundation. This is for your safety, the safety of first responders and those of the area. And again, don't drive on flooded roads. CBJ will be distributing updates from the National Weather Service updates on our social media pages and through press releases. And as Ryan shared, you can email floodresponse@juneau.gov. I do believe we might have a couple more questions in the chat that were specific to Nicole Farron, if you wouldn't mind coming back up. Okay.
one of the questions I had is, can you explain what causes a secondary break in the ice dam and how that differs from the break that occurred in August?
The why behind it is less certain. That would be definitely something to look for on the JuneauFlood.com, the website that UAS, Aaron Hood, and their team of glaciologists have developed a lot of information related to the why behind these events happen. The first flood back in August was considerably different because that was a full basin. The basin was all the way to the top and water was flowing down over the side. This one's just a lot different because the basin wasn't full yet. It was, at 1,100 feet versus 13, 15. Don't quote me on the number there. I don't have it in front of me. But full basin versus, not nearly full, it makes a big difference. And there's just different dynamics in place with it being able to refreeze over a whole winter season versus having just released and being in a much weaker state.
And then I had a question about timelines that you could maybe reiterate, just best guess for the timeline.
Yeah. Our forecasters right now, I've been monitoring my phone since the press briefing started, and they are working on moving the timing of the crest to be slightly earlier in the morning. That updated flood warning will be coming out shortly. It won't trigger the tone alerts because it'll be an update to the previous statement. So don't expect your NOAA weather radio to tone. But if you refresh the Suicide Basin page here within the next hour, you'll have more information. I would say best guess is early morning, closer to that 8 a.m. time, if not even potentially a little bit earlier than that. So that, starting to look at like the pre-dawn hours potentially. So I think keeping things updated throughout the next 24 hours is the best advice.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all for being here today. If there are other questions, please feel free to email me at, we do have more. Okay.
I do have one more that I don't really know who it goes to.
Sure.
For whoever at the city is best to answer this question, if ballot measure 1 were to pass, how would the city's response to the future disasters like this one be affected?
We can't speak to the Assembly's future decisions on what should happen based on the ballot measures, but I'm happy to connect with that person via email if they want an email at ashley.heimbigner@juno.gov, and we can connect them with the right person for that answer. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, and stay safe out there.